All right, I'm really, really excited because I get to talk with Paul Liebman, who I have been a fan of, a friend of, and he's been a mentor to me for a few years now. How long have we known each other, Paul? Do you know?
I would say probably close to 5 years,
Probably about
right?
5 years,
Yeah, right.
half a decade of hanging out together
Half a
and
decade,
going
dude.
through this.
Half a decade.
So, Paul, you're in Torticity, and then for people who don't know what Torticity does or who you are, do you want to just take a minute, just explain, who you are, your background, and
Sure.
what Torticity does?
Fine. I'll make this pretty quick. So just quick background. I spent 25 years on Wall Street before getting into the legal space, handling institutional money. I was fortunate enough to get into the legal space. One of my clients that I handled the investment portfolio for was Esquire Bank. So that was
Oh,
sort of my segue into the legal space. And it just took a little while for me to sort of find my way where I thought where there was the most amount of opportunity. And listen, our vertical, mass tort, PI, sex abuse. I mean, it's sort of it's an area of law that not too many people actually even know about, right? And I think we're very, very fortunate to be positioned in this space. So anyway, with that, let me tell you a little bit about Torticity.
yeah.
I've been involved with Torticity for about 4.5 years, consulting. I recently came over about a year and a half ago to run their sales department, head of business development for Torticity. And what Torticity does is we specialize in three different verticals. We specialize in mass tort, which we have probably one of the largest dockets in the space. We specialize in sex abuse, which we rolled out a little bit over a year ago. We've now processed a little over 10,000 cases in our sex abuse vertical. And most recently, also a little less than a year ago, we rolled out our MVA program, which is we handle all the pre-lit for a lot of the higher volume law firms, nationally. And what Torticity does is, I'll just go with, let's say, mass tort at first. We take everything, we're not marketers, we take
Hmm.
everything post retainer, right? And we do the full workup. We basically take over the back office for the law firm in scale. We do the full workup from redoing intake to ordering medical records to medical record review to just keeping in contact with the client, keeping him abreast of the litigation, getting all the needed medical information, all documentation, including, and we fill out the entire plaintiff fact sheet on behalf of the law firm. So it has a nice little bow on it and it's ready to file. It's either ready to file or it's ready to find a co-counsel firm to file those cases for you. So that's what we do on the mass tort side, and I'll tell you what the value added is in a second.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very similar model on the sex abuse. Again, post retainer, we do the complete workup on behalf of all these victims of sexual assault, whether it's detentional center abuse, women's correctional center, Uber, Lyft, doctors, whatever it may be. And when we rolled this out about a little over a year ago, we really we took this very, very seriously. We started a complete new vertical from the ground up. We hired licensed therapists to deal with people that have been sexually abused, only because obviously the level of sensitivity when you're dealing with sex
Yeah.
abuse. Obviously, it's just it's horrific. Just the amount of sex abuse that's out there. It's not just women. It's women. It's men. It's our children. It's our children that are being sexually abused on social media platforms, and they're being groomed, and it's something I believe very, very deeply in, that we can actually help these people. And on MVA, post retainer again, we
Hmm.
redo intake, we verify everything. We do the complete workup, medical monitoring. We do everything you would do in a law firm on their pre-lit stuff, including and under the supervision and direction of obviously the attorney, but we also settle those cases for a flat fee. All-in cost for MVA is $1,500 a case, and we do it in scale. We've already done about, I don't know, again, just about 10,000 cases have gone through that vertical as well in the last year.
So a lot of that is a great summary. A lot of the law firms that are actually watching this at the moment are personal injury lawyers, criminal defense lawyers, people who maybe even just never touched a negligence case in their lifetime. Might be people who are looking into this for the first time. And then, so let's break this down just a little bit. We'll start with personal injury because you mentioned
Sure.
MVA. That's the motor vehicle
Yeah.
accidents, right? And so, is that nationwide? Is that throughout every state?
It's pretty
Nothing's
much in every
precluded.
state. Yeah, we're
Wow.
running right now. Well, we're running right now in about 30 some odd states is where our
Okay.
clients are right now. We're open to every state. It works in every state. I mean, it's a very, very good way for law firms to use their bandwidth and their funds, if you will, to be able to spend more of their time on the higher value cases, right? You know, an attorney
Yes.
spends almost the same amount of time on a $500,000 case than they do on a $30,000 case, but their time is much, much better spent, obviously, on their higher value cases, right, than on the lower value cases. And this also gives the law firm the ability to take the money that they would have invested in those lower value cases and actually take that money and buy more cases and leads and market more to help them grow even more. It's almost like a snowball effect once it gets going. It's a very,
Sure.
very, very good product, and we're doing very well with it.
It's why I love talking with you, because I'll learn something new every time, and you have this genuine passion for what you're doing, especially when you're talking about the sex abuse cases and different things. And we'll go into that in just a moment. But I want to just stay on the MVA for just
Yeah,
one more second,
absolutely.
if you'll
Sure.
humor me. One of the things that I was asked before this call was, in general, I know obviously everyone wants to know price. I'm not going to go into price on this call,
Sure.
but do the economics kind of work out where, in general, if you were going to take on and start scaling your practice with more personal injury matters, more MVA matters, like you were saying, a lot of the higher end cases that are very sensitive, they can work it in-house with their top team. But would they be able to kind of scale with you, as opposed to bringing on 5, 6, 10 more paralegals? Does the math work out that you are able to kind of subsidize their firm in a way that the economics are more favorable and the talent isn't compromised? Like, you have a really strong team.
Yes, we
So,
do.
just for a moment, when you think about, performance management, you think about HR implications, hiring talent, sourcing good talent. You're using best in class from around the country, right? Is that how that works?
Yes, that's correct. So I'll just give you I'll give you a really good scenario, right? So the way that we charge for MVA is very interesting. We charge $100 on ingestion, where we redo intake completely over again in a much, much deeper intake than you would normally get from a call center or even internally within the firm on their initial intake with these cases. So we know almost immediately if it's a real case or not, right? And that's that $100 that we charge. The next hurdle that we have is called our verification stage. Okay? If it goes through and meets all the verification, it's $400. And what that verification stage is liability, who's at fault, making sure there's insurance. We look at the police report. We make sure it's a compensable case. If it's not a compensable case, we kick that case back to the law firm, so the law firm can then go back to their marketer or not. And in a lot of instances, the marketers have a 14, 21-day return policy. They can actually then exchange that case for another case. Okay, so it helps the law firm tremendously. And these clients are contacted almost immediately once the retainer is sent to us for initial intake. Once we start working up that case, the $1,000, right, is totally deferred until flow of funds when the case and if the case is resolved. So we're real partners with that law firm. Your answer is the viability of what our offering looks like. I'll just give you a couple of numbers. 94% of all cases that go through our verification stage settle. 94%. They actually settle. Let me give you a couple of just data points, and this will make it very clear for you. Average time to settle on almost 10,000 cases is 221 days, just over 7 months. Average time to settle. Average settlement, it depends upon if it's at fault or no fault state, but average settlement right now is just under $40,000. So if you're working for a third of attorney's fees, right, at $40,000, it's $12,000 of attorney's fees. It cost you $1,500. You're still extremely cash flow positive, and you didn't take on any of the expenses for the additional office staff that you were talking about, hiring paralegals, support staff, other attorneys to work these lower value cases. Again, this gives the ability for the attorneys to actually spend their time and their efforts on the more valuable cases that you want to litigate.
Sure.
So I can actually walk anyone through the model. It's a very, very good way, A, to scale, right? B, to sort of cherry pick those higher value cases, right? So your attorneys can actually spend their time on like I said, the higher value cases. For everybody, it's really a win-win for everybody. I've heard very little negative. Just the level of professionalism that Torticity instills, not only in our employees that are working with these clients, with these plaintiffs, but they do an unbelievable job. 5-star Google reviews every week. I mean, it's and not only one thing I'll just that's different with MVA. When we handle MVA, it's totally a white glove service. It's branded to the firm. The plaintiffs don't even know that they're speaking to Torticity. And our technology, the firms know exactly, they have insight and visibility and transparency into every single case, every document, any type of medical record. They can see exactly the status of where this case is from start to finish live. So it's,
And you have the finance background.
I do, yes, I do.
And then so that's invaluable to be able to underwrite your docket, or if you're working on borrowing money and you're kind of leveraging what's happening with your inventory, and you need to go back to somebody and say, hey, what kind of case flow do I have? What's the status on these cases? You're tech forward, so you're giving them all of this insight so that it's easy for a lender. It's easy for yourself to forecast what economics might look like in the next 6, 12, 24 months.
100%.
That's incredible.
Our space has been changing so rapidly, Michael, over the last, especially over the last 2 to 3 years. Just technology, what's available, the offerings that are out there that can actually help the law firms, right? I think the biggest sinkhole in our space is choosing the right partners.
Yeah.
For the law firms. That's really their biggest, that's sort of the biggest flaw. They have to find the right people to work with, and honest and transparent people to work with. So that's on the MVA side. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And by the way, those numbers that I gave you of almost a $40,000 average settlement, that is not inclusive at all of the higher value cases that are being litigated by the firm. That's only on the pre-lit stuff. Very, very important, by the way. So,
yeah.
If you ever want to take a look at it, I'll model it for you. I mean, it's very, it's a great model.
Maybe a future webinar.
There you go. No problem. And we can break it
down. So in the idea of helping as many people as possible, you did slow it down, and I heard the almost choked up feeling that I get as well when you're talking about institutional sex abuse, especially when it comes to children. But it's not leaving out that adults are also harmed. I mean, you have situations where, especially for men, and as two guys talking about it just for a moment, in the intake area, because you've been involved on all sides of the of the process. And so I know you know this as well, but just for anyone who's never worked a sex abuse claim or had any sort of assault conversation, you have to give a lot of freedom and agency to these individuals, especially the men too, because often this is the first time they've ever told their story. They kind of have this thing where they say, no one's going to know this. My parents don't know about it. My kids don't know about it. My neighbors don't know about it. And so a lot of times these guys don't have therapists. They don't have these outlets. And so they finally say, you know what? I'm going to stand up. I'm going to try and make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else in the future. It's almost a heroic act. And it's a very emotional conversation. And so your team is navigating this all throughout the life cycle. And there will be situations where individuals will try and almost ghost you and leave, but they come back. And so your team, and I'll just kind of put this out there, your team is very talented in being able to keep the individual survivor engaged. Let them tell their story, monitor that story throughout the life cycle, and just make sure that they kind of stay with the firm, because that's a big issue, especially, and this is not a knock at Co-Counsel or anything like that, but if you're a law firm, right, and you have X amount of infrastructure and Y amount of technology, sometimes when you're getting a lot of referrals, it's difficult to keep up and it's difficult to keep your claimants engaged. One of the reasons that I, as a marketing company, love partnering with a case maturation partner, and you still find Co-Counsel at the end, is as a vehicle for these personal injury lawyers, these criminal defense lawyers, the people watching this podcast right now, you can kind of start with us. You get the acquisition, you get the claimants, you get the survivors on board. We have their stories. You're giving a voice to these people. And then it's going to be handled. It's like a adult supervision. Torticity takes it on. And then next thing you know, they're making conversations. They're talking to these people throughout. They're getting all the records if there needs to be records. It's an incredible experience. And then when it's ready, when the individual is ready to move on towards resolution, a lot of times the law firms I work with, that's when they engage the co-counsel partner.
Yes.
Do you prefer that kind of process, or do you have another way of thinking about when to engage co-counsel? Do you suggest law firms engage co-counsel early, even though they're using Torticity, or do you think they should go at the end?
So there's two different train of thoughts. The first thing is,
Yep.
obviously, is if you want to be sort of a passive in the litigation, and you just you like the litigation, you want to help these people, you think that it's a viable investment, right? Yes, you can pick your co-counsel at the beginning. You work up your deal at the beginning, whether it's 50-50 or whatever the deal is, and you can market through, demand lane. And a lot of these top litigating firms are already clients of Torticity. So the actual workup is exactly the same, right? So the answer is you can do it beforehand, or if you can also do it after the fact. The benefit to after the fact is two things. One is you'll have total insight and transparency to see every single case on our platform, right? Because it's your case, you have access to it. You can see how it's worked up, when medical records come in, any text, any email, any verbal correspondence, everything is there live that you can see it. And this is also a way that for a fact that your cases are being worked up, because obviously, there are a lot of firms out there that take these gigantic dockets, and the dockets sit there and they sit there and they sit there. And every month that goes by, you're going to lose X amount of those people because they haven't been contacted and they're going to go somewhere else. Okay, that's just the way that it is. So at least if Torticity is working the case up, that there is constant contact at a minimum of once a month, and that's customizable. If you're the attorney and you want us to reach out to them twice a month, then it's twice, whatever that number is. So at least you have total visibility into your investment, into your docket, into your portfolio, whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. Um, Having it from the beginning, again, it's a lot less of a lift for you, right? There's nothing for you to do. You have the arrangement with co-counsel. Co-counsel, in some instances, also will direct you to who to use for a marketer, right? Who they have approved, etc. So, and if you do wait, there are instances where, we can fine you, settlement counsel, or if it's already worked up, with a bow around it, and there's no added expense to that litigating firm, you can get better than 50-50 out there. There are some instances in some of the torts out there, if you want settlement counsel with the top litigating firms, I have deals at a 60, 65, and 70%. It just depends upon the tort and the firm. So there are benefits to both, right? It just depends upon you, how involved you want to be, how much visibility you want to see into it. Me personally, if it's my money that I'm investing in it, I want to make sure that the cases are being worked up, because we all saw what happened. Let's go back without mentioning any names. 3-4 years ago, right? People were investing tremendous amount in these enormous dockets. The dockets, right? They were marketing. They got these people, the retainers signed up. You didn't know if they were real, if they weren't real, if it was fraud, if it wasn't fraud, if it was a real person, not a real person. And now all of a sudden, all these cases are in these dockets, and when now they're looking for settlement, they're realizing that, 9 out of 10 cases weren't even real cases, because
Yes.
the daily due diligence that really needs to be done for a case to be worked up wasn't being done, right? It was more important to say, oh my God, I got 20, 30, 40,000 cases, right? That instead of saying, hey, you know what? We got 5,000 really good ones, or 1,000 really good ones, or 100 really good ones, right? The amount's immaterial. But at the end of the day, we're here for two reasons. We're here to help people at the end of the day, and we're here to make money. That's what we're here for, right? And to have 10,000 cases in a docket where only 100 of them are good, I would rather just have, 100 good cases, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and just, again, we learned a lot from the past, right? And let's try to not repeat the past. That's all.
You had a great comment earlier, and I think that might be one of the titles of this. We'll figure it out. But one of the many words of wisdom you shared was making sure that all constituents are having positive economics, right? And there's positive change, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be removing a product or putting a warning label on a product, that might be a situation where you're shutting down a facility, or you're, penalizing a facility, so they institutionalize some sort of better safety mechanisms for the people that are there, maybe screening mechanisms for the, to make sure predators don't get in. And then you have situations where it's just, motor vehicle, standard, personal injury, accidents. It's helping every constituent, whether it be you, the law firm, or the people and communities we all serve, right? And so that's really the essence of this, is making sure that everyone has an informed decision, and you're helping them in a way that is better than the typical lawyer answer. I'm sorry to pick on lawyers, but the typical
No,
lawyer
that's
answer,
all right.
it depends, right? It
Right.
depends. So you gave an it depends, but then you gave a great conversation about, arming you with the risk profile of understanding, okay, here's what it looks like if you don't use a system like us. Here's what it looks like if you do use a system like us. And here's why we care. Here's why we exist. Here's the problem that we solve. We're a validation service. We're a way that you can kind of make sure that you can protect both your claimants and your investments.
Investment. Yep. 100%. That's 100% correct. And listen, you and I are very, very fortunate. And I'll tell you why we're very
Yes.
fortunate. You ready? I thought about this a couple of months ago. I believe in the last 3 or 4 years, I think I helped and found legal representation to almost 1 million people that would have never gotten it, right?
Yeah.
So every dollar and spend that you actually deploy for an advertisement for somebody, you're giving someone the possibility and legal representation that they would have never gotten anywhere else. You know what I mean? And we're at the forefront. We're the ones that are finding these plaintiffs, right? For the most part, or
Yeah.
I was, and you are. I mean, you have to feel really, really good about that. I mean, that to me is sort of what makes me put my pants on in the morning. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's all it's the changes that we've seen. I think for the most part have been extremely beneficial to the space. I think the amount of transparency is just has been magnified tremendously over the last couple of years. The ability to help people and really make a difference has been tremendous for us over the last few years. And just the level of professionalism in the space. I mean, think about what the space was 5 years ago. It was really the Wild
Oh
West.
yeah.
Now things are, yeah, you know what? There's some bad people that keep popping up under a different name, but dealing with good people, dealing with good clients, dealing with good co-counsel, dealing with good strategic partners is very, very important in this space. And the one thing that I would mention, and I had this conversation with someone else the other day, is that it's so important not only for the vendors, not only for the attorneys, for everyone to do due diligence on themselves, to know who people are doing business with, right? Ask around. Ask your friends. Ask your friends that are attorneys. Ask the people that you're looking to co-counsel with. Just the more questions and the better that you prepare yourself and arm yourself with, the better it is for everybody in the space. So that's
Well
sort
said.
of uh, that's sort of my mantra these days.
Do you see why I'm obsessed with this man, with Paul
No,
Liebman?
stop, stop.
This guy is transformative. He's a visionary, and one of the things I love about it is he has a heart, right? And
Thank
so
you, thank
he
you, thank
wants to
you.
make sure everybody makes money. He wants to make sure everybody does well. He loves seeing everyone be successful.
Love it. Love.
It's the
That's why I
dad
like.
in him.
Listen, that's why. That's why I love helping everybody.
Yeah,
I just, you know what? I'm a huge believer in a few things. I'm a huge believer that everything happens for a reason, good, bad, or
yeah,
indifferent, because we've all had the good and we've all had the bad, right? But there's a reason. And, I just very, very content, happy where the space that we're in, where it's going, where the litigations are going right now. I mean,
mm,
it's been a long time until, a lot of firms have seen any money start coming back to them, right? It's been a long time. And now we're starting to see it. We're starting to see it in, opioids. We're starting to see it in Boy Scouts. We're starting to see it in the California section, the LA County. We're going to see it in PFAS. We'll see it in talc very shortly. Over time, we'll
yeah,
see it in Roundup. We'll see it. There are the torts are really starting now to have a little bit of momentum where our industry has been, honestly, there's been very, very little coming back to us over the last 5 years. So, and there are ways not to sort of relive this movie again. And one of the ways not to relive this movie again, where, cash flow and duration is king, obviously, in this space, because every day that goes by, especially if you're leveraged and you have a line out there, every day that goes by costs you money. And when these torts take 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 years, it's not good for anybody, right? But we
yeah,
are starting to see a little momentum right now with money coming back to us. And like I said, there are ways to sort of protect yourself. And one of the ways a lot of these mass tort firms are starting to protect themselves now are going into the MVA space for the sheer
yeah,
fact that there's predictable cash flow now. We know what the average settlement is. We know the average time to settle, right? You talk, you're not going to get a 10x on it, but you know what? Could get a 2x on it on an annual basis. And it's almost like a snowball effect, right? And there are other investments in this space beside just the, old school mass tort that also can help with the cash flows and diversify your docket a little bit. Like you mentioned, sex abuse is another one. And you can diversify based upon the different torts in your docket as well.
yeah,
So there are ways to structure, the docket in a little better but I would look at it almost like a cash flow positive way than the way that it's been done a little bit in the past. But we are here to help you. That's one of the advantages of Torticity as well. I'm just going to circle back for a second, but most of our fees are all deferred until the end. So you're not paying us up front for the work that we're doing. We're true partners with you because we only get paid on the back end if the case is a successful case and it's a compensable case, right? So that's sort of, it's very few companies like ours where we're totally aligned with the law firm as a true partner.
You're in it with them, right?
Yeah,
It's skin in the
right,
game.
right from the beginning, literally right from the beginning. And and one other advantage, Michael, working with people like both you and I, the relationships that we have in this space, and you're a lot like I am when it comes to relationship aspect in this space. You have very, very strong ties and relationships with, I'm going to say the majority, if not all of the top litigating firms that are out there. Use your relationships to help others, to introduce them to those other co-counsel relationships or other vendor partners or whoever it may be. Because when you surround yourself by good people in this space, people know that, they understand that, and not only that, when you refer to somebody, they actually trust your reference that you're giving them. They should still do the due diligence on their own to make sure that they're good people, but it's a very, very strong and good first step.
It's a team sport.
Exactly.
It
It really is.
Yeah.
And, it goes back again to, strategic partners and people that you want to do business with and people that are not only an asset to you to do business with, but it's there's financial gain, there's just it helps the entire fiber of our industry. It just makes it stronger and better. And there are so many people out there, whether it's insurance companies or defendants or the government or whoever it may be that's trying to poke holes in our fiber to tear us apart. We need to really stay together and be, have cohesiveness among the industry and stay strong. You know what I mean? So, there are definitely a lot of changes, a lot of people that are trying to change our industry. State of California, perfect example, right? Uber Technologies now is trying to, change a lot in our MVA world right now. But I think all these changes and all the transparency and how fast everything's happening is really making our space a better space.
That's wonderful. You really are the heartbeat of this entire industry, and I appreciate
We all
you being
are.
on.
Listen,
Yeah.
I learn, I teach, but I learn. I learn from everybody. Just
That's
be
right.
open, and speak to. I have about 4 meetings a month with other industry leaders in the space, one-on-one, right? And we talk freely about what we're seeing and what's going on, what's good, what's bad. I even have some of the 9 a.m. in the morning at my cabana. There are always a handful of
Okay.
people that show up that hit me first during breakfast, and we just speak about the industry and what's going on with it, what's taking place, how we can make it better, right? How, this isn't working out. How do we sort of change that a little bit? How do we, you got to be able to sort of move a little bit with the times. And like I said, things are happening so fast. The technology, the software that's in our industry, the AI, the amount of AI in our industry in the past 6 months. Think about that, right? It's just we're in an amazing space, which is pretty cool.
I love being at the forefront here. I mean, it's one of those things that when you go to these big conferences, it used to be there was a whole lot of marketing agencies, marketing companies, and now there is a lot of AI
Oh
companies,
my!
and they're all there to try and solve the problems, right? They're trying to make people more efficient. They're trying different things, and we're implementing AI and being tech forward. You are as well. A lot of people are. As long as you do it in an intelligent way, and we can help guide you through that process a little bit too.
The only
There's
thing
ways to protect yourself.
the only thing I'll tell you with AI
Yeah.
that I believe from where I'm sitting is that using it to make people more efficient, to make human beings more efficient,
Yeah.
100%. Okay? To replace the human touch, I don't think it's going to be beneficial to any firm. Do I think it will be beneficial to speed up the process, to find red flags, to write demand letters? Yes. Right? But again, this is my feeling, okay?
Yeah.
When someone picks up the phone to call a law firm, whether it's an automotive accident, whether they're sick from Roundup or talc or PFAS or whatever the tort is, or their hip or their knee deteriorated, whatever it is, right? They were sexually abused. Okay? They were sexually abused 25, 30 years ago. They were sexually abused yesterday. Doesn't make a difference. Yeah. Okay? My point is that when someone picks up the phone to call a law firm, it's one of the 3 biggest phone calls they'll ever make in their life. Okay? It's life-changing for them. It's one of the biggest decisions that they will ever make. So if we go into it believing what I'm saying, and I truly believe it, how important that call is, I honestly don't think AI is a replacement for that call. That's me.
100%.
Okay? I could be totally wrong in 6 months. Okay? However, I just don't believe that importance of that phone call. I don't think that someone that was sexually abused in the back of a car or in a facility, or their child was sexually abused, God forbid, right? I don't think AI is the front-facing first feel that your law firm wants to put out to that individual. That's just
deploy that human empathy.
Yeah, that's just
you're
my
right.
thing. And it goes back, I'll just say this, when we do intake for sex abuse in that vertical, our average intake is almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
3 hours. Okay, 3 hours for one intake, and we try to extract and get as much information on such a sensitive, obviously not only conversation, but just on a certain level, that we want to get as much as humanly possible, so we never have to ask them again, so they don't have to relive it again. Yeah. Right? So everyone, the way that they handle intake and the way that they handle each particular vertical is different, and each firm handles things differently. I'm just telling you what I think. That's all.
I mean, I appreciate what you think. That's why I'm fortunate to have you as not just a friend, but on this video, on this podcast to share your insights. Right.
I appreciate you asking me to be on it. Right. I mean, I had to start my day an hour earlier today, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. Well, hopefully you can spend the rest of your...
It's snowing out. I get to work from home today. You know what I mean? It's I think overall, I'll just say this: we're in a very, very exciting industry. We're in a very exciting time in the industry. I think there's still tremendous amount of opportunity. There are new torts that are coming every day, and just stay abreast of all the news, what's going on. Good partners, just stay in the game and just keep up to date what's going on in every tort. That's all I can tell you.
And law firms can call each other and they can call us too.
100%.
1000%.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike? What's going on with you? What's happened?
Well, right now, I mean, most of our current clients are looking very heavily into institutional sex abuse, especially women's prisons over in California, Illinois, and emerging into a couple different states as well on top of that. So we're doing a lot of those areas. There's Roblox, there's the rideshare. You have Uber and you have Lyft. So in the institutional sex abuse world, what's been really fortunate about that is because you actually do feel like a superhero. Like you really are fighting justice, and everything is important. But those areas have they hit a different satisfactory level. Like when you earn your shower at the end of the day, or you're gonna go in through your day and you close the laptop for the final time, you're like, wow, I made a big difference. And so that's been an emerging area for us of for growth. And then in general, we're actually doing a webinar later on this month with a couple of different partners, where we'll be talking about social media addiction and hair relaxer. So two very different torts as well. Social media addiction.
who
Yeah.
are you having on that, and when is it?
So the first one will be Joe Fantini from
Oh,
Rosen
no.
Injury Lawyers.
Sure.
Yeah. Talking about how he's been a trusted aggregator and partner with various different law firms, deploying capital and making wise investments that are good for his potential new claimants. And then also, being able to show returns and be successful for the law firm, right? So it's like you get to hit all those different areas that you were talking about, helping a lot of people and making everyone more money. Because, the torts you turn down are just as valuable as the ones you win in. And so that's a big piece.
Picking
And
the
so,
right tort, huh?
That's kind of what this is, right? So it's picking the right torts, and then the torts that he's suggesting for the end of the month are social media addiction and for hair relaxer. We're also getting a lot of interest in GLP-1 and different areas that are a little bit more difficult to acquire, right? So Depo-Provera, very difficult to acquire. Necrotizing enterocolitis, very difficult to acquire. The Nion diagnoses, very difficult to acquire. But if you have the right systems in place, you can make it work. The ones that actually are creating a good pathway that we're seeing from the tip of the spear, right? So there's like the different parts of the ecosystem. From the tip of the spear are institutional sex abuse, social media addiction, and hair relaxer. Those are the areas of growth.
So let me ask
We're
you a
also
question
pretty dialed in on
with
those
hair
areas.
relaxer, not just to go off topic. I
Yeah.
think this is great. Who are you recommending co-counsel? Do you have someone that you're recommending? Just give me an idea.
So there are three different partners. I'm not sure if I can mention them all on this podcast. I might actually
No
put
problem.
an amendment to it.
You can
Yeah.
sideline that.
I definitely have different partners who are really leading the charge in uterine cancer specifically. There are some, potential legal gymnastics needed for the breast cancer with BRCA in different areas, but people are still taking ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, and breast cancer as like the trifecta of being able to serve all those different communities and all those different women who trusted the wrong product, right? They trusted the products to be safe for them. Maybe they still would have used it if they knew, but the thing is, there's no warning, right? There was no knowledge that, and they didn't have that choice to say,
Right.
hey, look, I want to feel better about myself. I think that I would look really good with straightened hair and hair relaxer, and you trust this, seemingly safe product, L'Oreal, different things, and then you realize afterwards, oh man, the cancer I developed might have been caused from getting my hair straightened, and that chemical hair relaxer that you trusted at one point it's a terrible situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Traumatic.
Yep.
I can only imagine the trauma that someone's going through. Like cancer is one of the most transformative things that happen in your entire life, right? And so getting that diagnosis and then finding out later on it could have
Could have
been
been caused by
prevented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And so the uterine cancer specifically, that litigation is moving along in a I think very positive way from where,
There
again,
was
like you said,
something.
where I
Wasn't
sit.
there something like 3 weeks ago? There's some movement.
Yep.
Right.
I actually did a little video about that I can attach to here
Oh yeah, you should.
if people are interested. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely
So
should.
that would be interesting. I did a write up in it, and then I also gave a short video. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long, where I kind of recap the hair relaxer State of the Union lawsuit. Same thing with social media addiction, because that one's moving along too. Zuckerberg, I believe, end of this month is going to be, taking the stand type of deal, and they're going to be asking, hey, what's going on with the algorithms? How are they actually sent out, and how is that information consumed by the user? And that one hits close to home for me, without going too nuts into it. My older daughter, actually, she hasn't filed a case, but she was impacted. She's still with us, which is great, but she was impacted in a very negative way through a very specific series of videos that were sent her way. That it was the chapstick videos. Not to go too much into it, but basically people were saying, "Hey, you buy a thing of chapstick if you're sad, and if you get to the end of the chapstick and you're still sad, then you should probably check out." And it's an awful, awful situation. And those videos kept getting served to her. They kept coming, and
Over
the
and over and
algorithm is
over
just
again.
doing what algorithms do, right? It's the idea that there were no flags, no systems in place to say, hey, look, this content we're serving could potentially be really scary. And that's just my example. There are thousands, tens of thousands of examples that are out there. And
I
so,
know it's so. You know what?
yeah,
It's if this gets on, great. If it doesn't, but let's just right. With the social media addiction, and also the video game addiction, because they sort
yeah,
of go hand in hand together, right? With obviously today, most households are two-parent working households that are not around, and not everyone has eyes behind their head, right? And I had an issue with my daughter as well, but it was more on the addiction side than anything else when it came to social media, the actual addiction. And fortunately, and again, having one parent home is a huge sacrifice.
hmm
And it was a choice that we made, but it was a sacrifice having my wife home with the kids. I mean, it sounds great, but it's a sacrifice, right? She gave up her career to be home with the kids. Fortunately, we were able to do it. So when you're home with the kids all the time, you see their tendencies, right? And my older one, she was addicted to the phone, totally addicted, total 100%. I don't care, 100% addicted. And fortunately, I caught it before it got too bad. And even when she was a senior in high school, so we're not talking about someone that's 10,
sure,
11, 12, 13, 14. We're now talking about a young adult, right, going into college. I had to take her phone away. I had to lock it. I controlled all the passwords. Fine, you want to be on this site? You got an hour. Here you go. And I had to literally every single night had to log her on and log her off, right, to control it. When you don't have that oversight
yeah,
and the kids have freedom to go wherever they want to go, it's very, very easy for them to get into problems. And these platforms, whether it's Facebook or TikTok, or it doesn't make a difference what it is, Instagram, it doesn't make a difference what it is, they need to have controls. Instead of the algorithm to feed the kids the wrong stuff, the same algorithms could be used to control the amount of time and the amount of content and what they're looking at.
yeah.
So that's the part to me that needs to be fixed. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
do.
I mean, by design, they're battling for attention. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's just the
The wrong
content
way.
that is being
They're just doing
served
it the wrong way.
is, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
They can do it to make it better instead of worse, right?
correct, hundred
So,
percent.
is there anything else that you want to cover, dude? Whatever you want to cover. I'm good covering it.
I I feel good about this. I mean, we definitely teed up the conversation for another time if you wanted to
Yeah, of
revisit
course.
for what can we both do in the industry, what can other people do who are watching, how can they contribute in different material ways. There's a lot of good topics that came out of this that might spin off into deeper discussions
Whatever you want
about
to do. I'm Michael.
how can people who are lawyers and non-lawyers contribute. So I think for this particular episode, so to speak. Not to throw out the nomenclature too much, but for this edition,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
covered
But
a great
if you
amount.
need, listen,
And
if you
yeah,
need a follow up, another episode, whatever you want to do, just come, tell me what the topic is, and we'll do it anytime,
I
dude.
love it.
I'm here to help you,
I
brother.
love it. I likewise. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the
totally.
things I love about Paul, I've had this 15 different ways in this last hour is that how giving he is, right, and how willing he is to help. And so, Paul, thank you for always kind of being there and being a soundboard for myself, and then also just for ideas, right? Kind of going back and
Always.
forth on how we can both contribute, how I can help, how I can be better. And you're always curious on your own too. And that's a fantastic attribute of any human being, right? Is to be curious, be humble, be knowledgeable, but also like be able to ask questions. That's how you become more knowledgeable. So I appreciate you so much for being on.
I
So
appreciate you
much.
too, Michael. Anything I can ever do to help, or you just reach out, and if there's a part 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you need, you let me know. How's that?
Absolutely. We'll be regular guests.
All
It'll be
right.
like the Joe Rogan
I really
experience.
believe podcasts like this just make everything better for everybody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you're one of the faces I always look forward to seeing at these conferences. So
Thank
hopefully we'll
you.
see you soon.
Absolutely. I mean, I will be. I have a large travel list coming up very soon with Mass Torts Made Perfect, Mass Torts Puerto Rico, and
Yes,
I'm all
yes.
over the map.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you
um,
good?
oh,
Go ahead.
if anyone's ever curious about what conferences we will be at next, both you and I can always share our schedules. Where will you be next, Paul? Paul, how can someone find you?
Oof. You ready for this one? All right. Let me give you. So I'm always available on my cell. Well, so let me
Yep.
give you that first. It's 631-335-8575. My email is Liebman, Liebman, at Torticity, Torticity.com. You can always reach me by text, email, phone. And my schedule coming up is fairly interesting. There's others that will fit in there, but it looks like I'll be in Florida, Nashville. I will be in Vegas for MTMP. I'll be there all week for that. A couple of other conferences. I'll be down, I'm sure, at Lanier. Couple of Litfin conferences as well, but I'm always accessible. I mean, I'm the easiest guy in the world to reach. So if there's anyone that wants to, call me up and talk about Michael behind his back, we can do that too. Whatever anyone wants, I'm, like I said, easy to reach and always willing to have a conversation with somebody, even if it's, a question about anything. Just like I said at the beginning, one of the things I really happen to like is helping people. So on both sides of the aisle. So that's it. But Michael, listen, I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you very much. This
Appreciate
was
you.
great. Looking forward to the next one, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, and love you, buddy. And I love everyone who's watching this. Thank you so much. Let's help more people together.
Perfect. Sounds good. I'll